Hey everybody, happy Saturday. Can you actually believe that it is the first Saturday of October already? But anyhow, and for this morning, thank you for joining in. This is the check-in for October, the monthly Facebook Live chat that I have with me and my good friend Charlie Red. We will be discussing a myriad of topics, of course. Specifically, hey Charlie, good
Hey,
morning, brother.
good morning. Good morning.
Absolutely. Now, while we're here, can I do a real quick camera check? How much are you
Well,
seeing?
it's just two of us, so you got you up close and personal.
Better?
Yeah,
Better?
yeah.
Let's see
It
what
cut
happens in Pratt, Joy.
it cuts off your head by right
Is it
here.
cut my head off?
Yeah.
How about that?
So you might have to tilt your camera up a little bit. There you go.
Wait, hold on. I gotta get it to stay. Hold on. Uh, better? No?
Yeah,
Better?
that's perfect. But when Pratt joins us, it may change.
Yep. Okay. So again, everybody, hey, look, that's why we're doing this early. So again, this is our check-in with for October. Again, I can't believe it's already October. The year is almost over. But again, we're grateful to be here. As you can see, me and my good friend Charlie Red. And then let me quantify that by saying not just my good friend and my brother, but my kid's godfather. So again, as the question pop up like, why him? Because that's why. So there you go. But we're going to have a special guest that's going to be joining us here in a minute. And so hopefully he'll be able to get on. I'm just going to check and see if and it doesn't look like he's joined yet, but that's okay. But again, this month we're going to be talking about, and it's kind of an extension of what we discussed last month, but continuing on with relationship conversation, we're going to talk about whether or not communication is important in a relationship and really looking for this to be very interactive with all of you because we feel like you bring a lot to the conversation in terms of opinion about relationship and how important communication is to each of you. You know, Charlie and I obviously talk with some frequency, and we can chime in on our thoughts, but we really are looking to see what each of you thinks. So we're looking forward to not just your chats that happen during the live, but again, to continue to have these same conversations after the live has ended because we will continue to talk with you. So with that being said, Brother Red, although I know we're waiting for someone to join us, what you got going on over there? I see you looking down. I'm gonna do something I never do. Drink some coffee. What you got going on over there?
I actually put it on mute because every Saturday, um, Columbus, Georgia does its hurricane preparation drill. So that's probably what you hear in the background.
Now, Brother Pratt, I'm gonna remove you, and then I'm gonna add you because I think that we're gonna run into an issue. So let's see what happens here. Let's see if it actually will do it for him this time. And if that's not going to work, Pratt, if you are in the lobby, request to join, and let me see if it'll do it correct this time. But anyway, so you said every Saturday in Columbus, Georgia, what's happening?
Every Saturday at 12 o'clock, they do the drill. So, yeah.
Now, is it the uh-oh.
Hurricane, just basically hurricane warning system. And so there are speakers throughout the entire city. So you can't help but hear it wherever you are.
I got you.
But it just ended. So,
Okay. Pratt, I want to know that if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove you from where you are right now because your camera's not on. And then within the little square, there's a way that you can request to be added. Okay. So I'm going to remove you now, request to be added, and then I will try to add you that way. See if that works. There we go. Okay. I see it. Also, should have reminded him about putting his earbud. So let's see if this works. All right. Anthony, I'm hoping it works, brother, because I know we we were prepared to be on early. See, it's showing that you declined it again. So let me try adding you one more time, Pratt. I don't know why it keeps doing this. I have no idea why it's doing this.
Or do you want to add Pratt first, and then I'll
I-
jump off, and then add Pratt first if you can. And then
I
I'll
don't
do
think
the
that's
rest.
it. I don't think that's it. No, genuinely, I think it's something from his side. I honestly, I don't know. Okay, Anthony, that is not working, my friend. Try joining one more time. Try hitting that invite one more time. Chuck, do you have the ability to invite him? Do you see at the bottom of your screen?
Let's see.
Brad, do you have your earbuds in?
Yes.
I have no idea why it doesn't want to. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, for whatever reason be, it still has that echoey thing going on. And you said your earbuds are connected, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I have no idea why it's doing that. Okay. Charlie just removed himself. He wanted to see if yours would pop up here. Pratt, let me take you off again, and then I'm going to bring you right back. So hold on. No, I'm gonna bring him right back. Chuck. I'm gonna try it again.
Okay.
So again, another one of those reasons why I feel like I don't understand the technology. I don't get it. Pratt, if you can hear me, it's saying that you're declining the invite. So I don't know why it's doing that. I have no idea. And I know that that is frustrating for him. Let me send him another invite here. Okay, so you said the tornado warnings. We get them for the hurricane warnings. We get tornado warnings. And so they don't test them this time of the year, not that I can recall, but again, you just don't, so you must be near one.
Yes.
Oh, okay, no wonder. That's terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good if you to know it's on the way, but it's terrible. Anyway, all right. Well, while we're trying to figure out, okay, do you see Pratt highlighted at the bottom?
No, not on my screen. I don't.
Okay. I'm trying to add him one more time here, and I'm gonna pray that this works out. It's saying that you're declining it, Anthony, so I don't know what's going on. I have no idea. Okay. Anthony, we're gonna have to keep trying to figure this out, brother. I have no idea. So, but Chuck, why don't we go ahead and jump into the topic, because I know that we want to make sure that we at least start having the topic go. Thoughts about communication in a relationship. And I think we started in last month when we were talking to DeRay, and we were talking about whether or not it mattered what type of relationship it was. So does it matter? What's your thoughts on communication in a relationship? And then the other side of that, does it matter the type of relationship?
Well, I mean, I like the topic that you selected
Mm-hmm.
because it starts out, pretty wide, and because relationships, as we've discussed even in the previous, conversation we've had, they might mean different things for different people. Same thing with the communication.
Mm-hmm.
Communication might mean different things to different people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have verbal and nonverbal.
Mm-hmm.
Coming with the whole social worky type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you have verbal and nonverbal. You have the love language that's out there that people are talking about. What's your love language?
Sure.
So again, relationships can expand, as well as communication and communication styles can expand. And so again, this is a wonderful topic that you brought up, because it may mean different things to different people.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that, you and I, we've talked about this before, that we would love to find out what other people's ideas are. There's no right or wrong answer. But what are other people's ideas of language or communication or even relationships? What does that mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I love the topic.
Um,
It casts a wide net.
And I'm a fan of that. I think what's important to me is something that you just said, that communication comes in various forms. Um, so it depends upon what form it is that you are the most proficient in versus the one that you aren't as proficient in. I know for me, verbal communication is king. Any relationship that I have been in, no matter the form of relationship, but any relationship I've been in, it's been very, very important for me to have verbal communication because I really feel like it keeps the confusion at bay. Or as you and I talk about being Christians, it keeps the enemy at bay, you know. So that's been very, very important to me. But again, there's so many different types of communication. It's hard for me to be able to say, well, obviously this works well for me, but let's use Will as an example, my husband. His verbal communication skills maybe not be as strong or as sharp as mine are because it's important to me. His might be a different way, going about it a different way. Um, and that's something that I have to just be aware of, and it's something that I have to be able to extend grace to. Again, the Christian in me knows I got to extend grace in this marriage because it's sure enough, it's not easy. So, but this being the relationship I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the same thing to me with any other relationship I have, friendships that I have, or work cohorts or whatever that is. It's very important that I communicate and I communicate well verbally. I don't want anything to be left on the table. I want everyone to know where they stand. I want to make sure that when I'm talking with someone that I'm also actually listening to what it is that they say or that they want, and that we have a very effective verbal communication going on. So then that way there's no questions as to what is, what's not, da, 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 da. There's, again, confusion, to the side. You know exactly where you stand with me. I know where I stand with you, and we've discussed these things, and we should have an understanding. Now, does that mean we need to come back to the table just to um, clarify some things? Absolutely. You and I are talking right now, but doesn't mean that 5 minutes from now I may say, "Now, Chuck, now explain to me." So, yeah, I agree. And again, it doesn't matter the type of relationship to me. At the end of the day, I lead with verbal communication in all of the relationships because it's so important to me. I don't want there to be any confusion at all. I
I
don't
mean,
I don't want anyone to ever come back after I pass away. Let's say I pass before you, and I'm assuming that you're gonna come to my funeral and speak. Uh, better, or else I'm gonna haunt you. But kidding, kidding. But again, the one thing I know that you'd be able to tell anybody is, hey, listen, Tanya made sure that she communicated and she told everybody where they were at with her. There was never a question of where they were at with her. We knew exactly where we stood with her because she made sure to tell us. So, I mean, what would you think, or what do you say?
well, I mean, first of all, I appreciate the intro, even talking about communication, because the other side of it is actually listening, the ability to participate in active listening. So I'm listening to everything you say, not to respond, but to really hear you and then give a response. Because, oftentimes we actually listen to respond, but are we truly listening or hearing what the person's saying? So I definitely appreciate that. The other thing that I would just like to add to you broke down in terms of the different types of relationships. So you talked about yours in terms of a marital relationship, and then you also compared that to coworkers. And so the other thing that's underlining for me, and I got to give a shout out to Auntie Ivy, because she gave me some feedback on the last one. So is to
Hopefully
make
she
sure
joins.
that is to make sure that as you are responding to whatever the person's actually saying to you, the thing they're really looking for is consistency. So you can be, verbal communication might be your strength, but the one thing I can say about you is that that's your strength, but you've been consistent with it. So it's
Mm-hmm.
much easier for me to accept it
Mm-hmm.
because I already know what I'm going to get
Absolutely.
before I even get it.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
again, consistency and communication and relationships is also the underlying theme. It
Mm-hmm.
is. It's how
Mm-hmm.
consistent are you, even in terms of your love language. So whether it be the fact that you act upon what you say you're going to do, it's the consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have 10 opportunities and you're only consistent in 5 of them, yeah, it might be, it's
That
kind of
track record's
cause for
not really
some,
good.
yeah, cause for some shaky foundation. But if you're consistent all the time, then
Mhm.
people know what to expect.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. You still got some feedback that you had gotten for you. So people are giving you
Yes.
notes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, I mean,
go ahead.
she hit me with, yeah, you're definitely talking from a clinical perspective.
Yeah.
Which again, everybody know me, I'm the same dude, but I thought that was actually, funny, but it was good
Mm-hmm.
feedback because she was communicating. Now that we're on this topic, she was communicating with me how she was receiving it. So it now made me say, okay, do I either A, ignore what she's
Mm-hmm.
saying, or do I take that constructive criticism or constructive feedback? Because it wasn't really criticism, it was feedback.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do I take that constructive feedback and then begin to impart it, not only just in this pod, but as I'm talking to anybody else?
Absolutely. I mean, it's interesting. I don't think that I've heard back other than, the normal, and no offense to anybody that's going to listen to this. It's great show and great pod. And, I don't mind getting that type of critique. It doesn't bother me at all. Again, we're not just doing this just for our own purposes, because we don't have to get on in front of this camera and have this kind of conversation. We talk as often as we do about these same conversations. As you said, we're just allowing the world in to what it is that we discuss. So the fact that you're even open to and you trust this person enough to be able to take what they're saying to you, because again, they've been consistent with you.
Yes.
I,
Yes.
I trust it. I know your track record.
Yes.
So you're not just saying it for the sake of saying it, da-da-da-da. But I think it interesting because of your profession that people give you note. Very interesting. Like, I wouldn't have thought about that. Like, okay, this just Chuck hanging on this. Okay, all right.
But
And,
I mean, I like to tell everybody, I'm a study of human behavior,
mhm.
and I've been that student of human behavior my entire life. It's just that now there's a profession that actually matches it. So when you start talking about me as a social worker, there's a certain connotation to social worker, but social worker again, it's really an active listener.
Yes,
That's my job, is to hear people out. And then again, why this topic is so important is because in hearing people out, everybody's communication styles are different.
absolutely.
So for some people, they'll just tell you flat out what's on their mind. You don't have to guess, you don't have to wonder, and then you can begin the process of either breaking down whatever the problem or challenge is and help them. Other people might be a little more guarded. So they want you to interpret what they're saying without making them feel, inadequate. So yeah, again, but people are people. People are people. There might be times that, I speak, because I try to believe that I speak, open and candid, and I have no hidden agenda. But again, what's that person's interpretation of what I'm saying?
True.
Do they think I have one? And if I notice those cues, what can I do? Like you said earlier, what can I do to try to break that down?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Something that, as you were talking a minute ago, again, going back to the note. Okay, I'm not going to call it critique. I'm not going to call it criticism, because I don't think it was either one. I think it was from a professional perspective, but the spirit of love, it really is a note, right? Um, but my thinking is reciprocal. Conversations being reciprocal. So when you talk about, I know you are a listener. You're a listener by birth, by upbringing, by profession. So this is just who you are. And but at the same time, our relationship's supposed to be reciprocal. So as you and I are sitting here having this back and forth banter, this conversation, at some point you may interject as I'm saying something, right? And is that okay? Or in this case, should you listen to everything I've said and then, because I haven't thought about it, but and then present your response. So what's kind of your take on that?
To each his own. To each his own, and whatever works for you. And the beautiful thing, again, going back to the very beginning, as you compared the different types of relationships, because that's a topic, communication and relationships. It's going to be different in each one. It's going to, and there's nothing wrong with that. AP,
What's up, guys?
What's going on? I'm glad you could join us, man.
So
Finally, man, finally.
let me stop for a second. Anthony,
Yes.
it's in. Okay, let's do that first. Or hold on, 'cause I can check real quick. See, that's typical Anthony crap behavior. 14 minutes late.
Hey, you know.
We know. Um, now,
No.
Chuck, I said that I wanted to stop for a second. Let's do some readjusting to the camera. How is this looking right now? Pratt, I'm gonna have you slide your camera back because it's all face right now. I said camera, you slid back.
No. I moved the camera back.
No, that's good. It's actually good. That's pretty good.
All right.
Look at Pratt, big old chucklehead. Go ahead, Pratt. Pratt said cat. Now you know,
That's right.
look, you don't even try. Look. So
Of
let's
course, it's
stop
all
for a
good.
second. We'll stop for a second and let's go back up top. This is the check-in with, again, for October. This is our monthly Facebook chat with me and my very good friend, Charlie Red. This month, we have, again, one of our loved ones. I mean, I almost feel like I don't even know a time frame. It's like our late friend and brother Vinny used to say, I don't even know a time when I didn't know this man. But our brother Anthony Pratt, Antonio Pratt, has joined us today. And
Antonio.
glad that you're able to be here with us, brother, and we love you to death.
Thank
So
you.
thank you. But we wanted to continue our conversation that we're having about communication and relationship and the importance of it. And so Chuck and I were just kind of sitting here talking about there's different types of relationships, but there's also different types of communication. And so, Charlie, I know that you were kind of imparting about, we were just kind of recapping about reciprocal conversations and such. I want to allow you to finish that, and then Pratt, I'm gonna jump over to you. Okay, I don't know if you've been listening to have caught anything that we've been kind of talking about. Have you caught
Right on.
any of what we've been talking about so far, Pratt?
Yeah, I've been listening.
Okay, cool. So, Chuck, why don't you go ahead and finish what you were talking about with respect to reciprocal? And like you said, to each his own. If somebody's talking, and then should you wait before you say anything, or to just kind of impart?
Okay, well, first of all, shout out to my brother DeBarge. AP is DeBarge, brother. Yeah, you know how to get that in. But again, and even that, because I can say that to him because we have that type of relationship, and he didn't get offended by it. He knows that it's nothing but a pure compliment. So that's what I'm talking about in terms of just running it through the same vein of relationships and communications. And so, because of where you stand with the individual, there are things you might be able to say and things that you might not be able to say. That people might take it as a compliment, and whereas others might take offense to it. So the reciprocal part, as you actually touched on, is very important because it should be a two-way street. But keep in mind, you said something very powerful at the very beginning when you were talking about will. We're not all at the same place. So we have to have some understanding, not just about ourselves, but about other people. And that's really the key. We have to know how they're receiving this, or what their strengths are and weaknesses are, opposed to our strengths
Absolutely.
and our weaknesses or
Absolutely.
challenges.
Yeah.
So again, extend that grace. And so that's a reciprocal part when you talked about the word grace, being able to extend that grace back and forth to one another.
Absolutely.
Not be so quick to judge, but grace.
Absolutely. Okay. Antonio, again,
What up?
welcome. What are your thoughts? I mean, I know that you had the topic, and I'm sure you got some thoughts just in general. What are your thoughts about the importance of communication in a relationship, whether it be from your own personal experience or just kind of your worldview? What are your thoughts?
Oh, most definitely.
Mhm.
Two people, two different thinkings, two different thoughts. Of course, communication is the key.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Mhm.
You were saying when you were talking about interjecting while the other person is communicating with you about their feelings. Yeah, I have a big I'm a lot like that. So when my wife is communicating with me,
Yeah, Brett.
she wants me to just listen first and then come in with my idea. But all too often, I think I know I have ADHD, so sometimes I have, exactly. Sometimes I have to interject because whatever she's saying at that particular moment, my brain is like, oh, hold on. Let me answer that. Let me address that, because that thought by the time she gets done is going to be gone, long gone in the wind. But, it's yeah, it's very, very important, that communication. And, in terms of that topic you said, I think we all have to give each other leniency and, recognize that, who your partner is, they might not have the faculty to bring that up later because, it might be a missed opportunity, especially when you feel like it's a good sticking point. You know what I'm saying? So, yes, it just depends on the both of y'all and what y'all are willing and wanting to do in terms
Absolutely.
of the relationship and communicating within it. But it's definitely the key, and it's definitely for the longevity if that's where you're trying to be. You have to communicate.
Absolutely. Now, I also asked whether or not the relationship matters. So whether it be marriage, whether it's romantic, whether it's work, does it matter the kind of relationship with respect to the communication? And again, bearing in mind
Oh,
that there's different types of communication. It's not always just verbal. There's written communication.
oh,
There's various types. So does
of
it matter
course.
the relationship that you have with respect to the communication and how important it is? Does it matter?
Uh, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I would think communication across all boards, it matters. But like you were saying, a lot of times, you've been around somebody for so long, a lot of times you don't need to even say anything. You know what I'm saying? Just like Chuck just said, what he said about me, he knows that because that's from day one, that's how we get down. So, but overall, yeah, communication is key. I mean, nobody's a mind reader here, you know, and what you need to say it. You know what I'm saying?
But,
So, and if something offends you,
but
say
right.
so.
Okay. Well, I
Go
think
ahead.
the difference is, and what Chuck just had said that I had said earlier about Will and my relationship with him. Uh, I have to extend a lot of grace to my husband
Of
because he's
course.
not me. He's not me.
Right.
I don't know if I would want to be married to me. Let's just put it that way. Okay, there you go, folks. And
You
that's the
got a
end of the
point.
show right there, folks.
There you go. Podcast is done.
It's done. But
Right.
because I understand who I am. I had one of my teachers when I was in nursing schools. I remember she used to say, "I am self-actualized," and I came from having an Eisenhower education, and I didn't know what that meant. I had to look it up. And back then, I had a thesaurus. We didn't have internet. You know what I'm saying? I went to nursing school a long time ago. But the point I'm making is, I remember she used to say, "He's self-actualized." She understood who she was. I didn't really know what she meant every time she said it, but she's like, I know who I am. I don't need somebody to tell me who I am. And that was powerful to me to hear that. This has been 30 years ago I heard this, right? But the point I'm making is that's how I kind of morphed into this woman I am today at 55, saying, I know exactly who I am. So therefore, if I'm marrying this man, I know who I am. I have to tell you who I am. And also, I need you to experience who I am, but also let me extend grace to you because I know who I am. I know what I do. Everything's not always going to be pretty. It's not always going to be lovely. It's not going to be roses. So let me extend grace to you for you being a different person. And like you just said, Pratt, not a mind reader. I just said that to my husband earlier this morning. Baby, I think that it is out, but you know what? I realize you're not me. You're not going to read my mind unless I talk with you, communication, and tell you this in advance for you to be on the same page with me. So,
Right.
so I say all of that to say, absolutely, we're not mind readers here, and
No.
communication is vitally important. Chuck, did you have something you want to interject? I'm sorry, I thought you had
Oh
something
no,
else.
no. I mean, just shout out to Swoop JC and Sister Braxton. I know they popped
Mhm.
on.
And I see
Um,
my sister Denise Hill, because I know who that is, also joined. So good morning, everybody that has joined. Again, this is the check-in for October. As you can see, we have our loved one, Anthony Pratt, with us today, as well as my good friend, Charlie Red. Today, we are talking about communication and the importance of it in a relationship. So we're looking for your interaction, excuse me, that you're going to have in the chat. also bear in mind that we will, hey, AB, we see you, sis. Look, that's our Virgo sister right there,
Mhm.
Adrian Braxton. That's
What
my
up,
Virgo sister,
AB?
same day. That's my girl right there.
Gerald, what's going on, Carter?
JC, Swoop, let's go. Look, we're gonna get you
Yeah.
on camera one day, Swoop. You ain't slick, but hey, that's a different day, different story. But anyhow, but communication in a relationship. So let's go back then. Let's take the marriage portion off, right? I look. We'll wait for you to get situated.
Man, hold on.
Well, before you do that, let me kind of interject on what Anthony was saying too. And it also goes back to your term. Can you hear me? Self-actualization. Um, what Anthony was saying, talking about between him and his wife, that he likes to interject, and so you have to have knowledge of yourself first. So the fact that he was able to say that, this is who I am, this is how I do, then again, that's power right there. So then you have the ability to change or adjust based upon the person who's receiving the communication.
Absolutely.
So that was very, very powerful, and appreciate you for sharing that, Brother Pratt.
But to be mindful, if you have knowledge of self, that's actually a lyric. I know that's a lyric from Brand Nubian. Anyway, if you have knowledge of self, if you really understand who you are, it's not hard to explain to people how you are and why you are the way you are. Now, how they interpret that and how they go about then interacting with you is a whole different topic conversation, and that's for them to know and for them to do, or them to decide whether or not they want to or not.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Correct.
can't force anybody to do something they don't want to do. So, um, but again, with respect to, and thank you for that, Chuck, by the way, I apologize. I want to make sure I came back to that. Communication, let's get off of marriage, because I know we could all sit here and talk about that all day long. Let's talk about let's talk about coworkers specifically, because I feel like a lot of the time, and in my case, I don't really have immediate coworkers that I have interaction with. You know, I work from home, I work from a laptop. So yes, I have verbal communication, but like my interpersonal skills, to have to deal with these people isn't necessarily the same as y'all's might be, because y'all go into an office or some place of work to have these conversations. What do you find is important about the communication that you have with
Well,
coworkers, or
first of all,
neighbors? You
well,
know what I mean? Open
Well,
it all the
first of
way
all,
up.
I'm gonna pull Anthony what he's talking about because I usually wait to the end, but I feel again compelled to interject. First of all, yours is actually more difficult than mine is because a part of communication. So you're communicating if you're over a computer, etc. Everything you say has to be absolutely intentional.
Yeah.
There's no other way to interpret it. For me, when I'm actually communicating with people face to face, I have a lot more resources that I have to my disposal, so they can see my body language. They can see if I'm sitting back, crossing my arms, or if my arms are open. They can see if my eyebrows inflectuate, that I'm listening. So I actually have, when you're dealing with people face to face, I actually have an advantage that I don't have to be as clear in my communication because my body language might say what my mouth doesn't.
Mm-hmm. 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 I like it. I like it. Okay. What you think, Brad?
Well, communication with me in terms of my coworkers. I'm a truck driver, so I get in my truck and I deliver whatever I need to deliver, and that's about the communication that I have.
No, wait a minute. Okay, so this is the reciprocal thing. Because I'm gonna jump up. I'm it right now, Brad. But you still have to go and talk to people at the office at some point, or to
Yeah.
pick up your stuff, or
Yeah,
yeah.
I was gonna elaborate on that, but
Oh well, look. What'd you say?
no,
My ADD elemental P, it kicks in.
right. No, I mean, like Chuck was saying, it's a little different for us because you know you're mostly on the computer, and like he was saying, Chuck was saying, body language. Of course, you walk in the warehouse or you walk in and get your paperwork, and they see you. A lot of times, it is about body language for us. And so, you know, it is. So, yeah, you just gotta figure out, you know, what's working. And, you know, we're guys, so it's all BS for the most part. You know, guys will be guys. You know what I'm saying?
What does
So,
that even mean? Now, see, I know I'm opening up a Pandora's box on this one, but
yeah,
you open the doors, I'm gonna walk through.
most of the time it means ignorant, playing. You know,
Oh
guys will
Lord.
be
Okay.
guys in a good way.
Okay.
In a good way. You know, in a good
Okay.
way.
All right. All right. We're gonna bring that conversation back one of these days, Fred. It's gonna be a topic. So, what does guys being guys mean, actually, Antonio?
Like
I hear
girls
you.
being girls.
Mhm.
We're not going there. You know, you're the one that
Exactly.
brought this up. We're not going to do that. Okay. Well, with that being said, I noticed that our sister Adrian was saying that office
What
is
up,
better.
Larry?
Yeah, I know there's some people that have come in. I see our brother Tony G. Tony Gomez is watching. Our sister Angela Ayers. Hey, Angie. LD, Larry Duncan, brother. Listen, we need to have you join our pod very soon. I'll be reaching out to you, so hopefully you'll be able to come and join us. But it's good to see each and every one of y'all. So, hey, Sister Denise, we see you too, my love. But again, I asked about like coworkers or like neighbors because again, I feel like that's a different conversation that you have with them versus what you have with your spouse. You don't tell your coworkers and your neighbors everything that's going on with you. You know what I mean?
Oh no.
But like, I guess my thinking was, do you feel like you extend niceties to those individuals when sometimes you don't to your spouse? So are you nicer to coworkers and your neighbors and how you talk to them? Again, it's a grace conversation, but are you nicer to them than you are to your own spouse or your own better half? What you think, Brad? I'm gonna start with you.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, you know, there's a certain parameters like you know, when you leave the house, you got to put on the work prep. You know
You
what I,
put on the happy face. That's what you do.
I call it the work prep.
All
You
right.
know, this is
All right.
when I show up, this is work prep. You know what I'm saying? And that's
Right. Right.
totally different. That's totally different when you come back home. You know,
Mhm.
I often said, you know, people are what's that, Jekyll and Hyde almost, like, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
You know, how you are at work is totally different than you are at home.
Mhm.
But you know, you're adapting
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
you know who you dealing with.
Mhm.
You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? So what necessarily how you communicate at home with your spouse is not, you know, and of course, you know, we're all adults and we get that. So, but you know, interjecting in terms of, you know, when you leave the house, when you're out and about, yeah, you have a different face.
Mhm. Mhm.
Some of us have a different tone.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, like I've always talked to my wife, like when I be on the phone with her, she's at work. I can't say that, but
Wow.
she definitely have a different voice. You know,
Understood.
it's more pronounced, it's more, you know, educated. You know what I'm saying? Kind of talk. So
Yeah.
yeah, you know,
Absolutely.
you
Absolutely.
adapt.
Yeah.
You
What do
adapt.
you think, Chuck?
I think you have to be aware of the
Mhm.
differences.
Mhm.
Yes.
So I'm aware of the differences, but I'm the same person. And because of that,
Oh
I can be
yeah.
saying things at work that might be deemed inappropriate
Oh
because
yeah.
I'm gonna give it to you raw. Um, so yeah, I try to close the gap because what I found in
That's
just again,
right.
I have no empirical research to support it, but what I found in mental illness is the difference between who you are and how people perceive you. The greater the distance, the greater the mental illness.
Yeah.
So if you have to put on so many different faces, then it actually does kind of create a schizophrenic damn reality.
Mm.
And damn is not a curse word,
Mhm.
so I'm watching my
Mhm.
language.
Mhm.
Um, but yes, I'm actually the same person. But the challenge of it is that sometimes I have to also temper myself. So what he's saying is very, very true. You have to be
Mhm.
definitely aware of where you are, and even specifically, I'm aware now being down in the South. which is different than what I had to be when I was on the West Coast. So now I have to be more conscious of who I am, what I am, and where I am.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's terrible.
No, it's
Let's take a
Did you?
stop for a
it's
second.
it's not it's a reality, but the beautiful thing that, again, at least the foundation of where we come from has prepared me to be able to adapt.
But that's what I was getting ready to say. To me, almost the downside is we are from Rialto. We're from everybody that's in this chat right now. Everybody grew up with us. Everybody. So everyone knows that time frame that we grew up in. Da 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 da. Now anybody else that joins us, obviously, and while I'm sitting here talking, hey, by the way, this is the check-in. This is the check-in for October, the monthly Facebook chat that I have my good friend Charlie read. Again, we've got our loved one Anthony Pratt joined us today, and we're talking about is communication in a relationship important? So, but to go back again, everyone understands where we came from and the time frame that we lived in this area, and so all of us can speak from the same thing to be able to say that was a wonderful time. We didn't have to worry about overt racism or blatant racism, or we didn't worry about those types of things. We all just kind of loved each other. We all just got along, and then we all grow up and we all decide to move away or to move wherever we move to. And now all of a sudden we live down south or we
Mm.
live east and we aren't
Yes.
experiencing the same things that we're used to or the types of people. And now we have to be aware of who we are and what we're doing and versus remember when we were growing up, we can go outside and be gone all day and our parents didn't worry about us necessarily.
Yeah.
Now we have to be, as my husband says, a head on a swivel, and pray that you
Definitely.
got somebody to watch your six.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's different. It's absolutely different.
Yeah.
So,
But
I'm
see, again, it's those are things we can't control. The fact that it may be different. The thing about it, like I want to go back to in terms of the power in the awareness.
mhm.
And so again, with communication, like we're talking about now, we've kind of morphed into from relationship to friendship.
Yep.
The goal of communication is for the other person to understand what you're trying to say.
Yes.
Bottom
Well,
line.
but
So
hold on, brother. You hope that it is because some people like to hear just
Right.
for the sake of running their own little mouths. So,
it's true,
mhm,
but that's the ultimate goal is for the other person who you're having a dialogue with, or many people, to understand what it is you're trying to communicate, what it is you're trying to say.
mhm.
So it now becomes upon you if you have to make the adjustments to make sure that they get the message that you're trying to convey. That's it.
Mhm.
Otherwise,
Mhm.
why talk? If you're not gonna receive what I'm trying to say, why am I saying it?
Exactly.
Pratt, let me stop you for a second, brother, because I know you got something you want to say. I wanted to really quick acknowledge some of the people that we had that jumped in. Brother Larry, I see that you're up here commenting, and he said when he moved to Rialto from LA, he had to learn the IE dialogue. I didn't know we had a dialogue.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
I'm like, I didn't do we have accents too? I'm still waiting for that one. I see our brother Lamicio Washington is watching. Our sister
What
Mia
up,
is watching.
Delicio?
Hey, welcome. Mouse, it's good to see you. We need to have you up on the chat, brother. I'll be inviting you. Don't worry about it. But anyway, but that's a good point, Chuck. That's a good point. That you hope that communication is about you wanting to express something to the other person and them to understand you. But there are instances where people talk just for the sake of running their mouths. They really don't want to be heard per se. They just want to get off
Right.
whatever they need to say. But I'm going to put that to the side. Anthony, what are your thoughts, brother?
Oh, most definitely. When Chuck was talking, Chuck. So, anyways, you said down south. Where are you?
He's in
Where are
Georgia.
Say it
where are
again.
you? Oh, you're in Georgia, so you're in
Yeah,
Atlanta.
I'm in Georgia. Yes.
Most definitely. So I moved here to Phoenix about 13 years ago. Prior to that, we was in St. Louis. So,
Hmm.
man, let me tell you, communication definitely is the key out there. And I'm not saying anything, bad about, it's just the geographical area that you're in, and a lot of people haven't been a lot of places. And, I definitely understand that. And I'm a military kid as well as Tanya is. Chuck, I don't know You know, okay, but anyways, what I'm trying to allude to that is that, that's taken me a lot of places, so I've fortunately was able to live alongside a lot of different types of peoples and cultures. So then when I came back, got with you guys, it helped, because when I got on the block, I was different. Yeah, they was like, who's this Bruce Lee cat? Long hair, chinky eyes. I was much more light skinned than I am now, but it just depends on where you are. Like I said, when I was in St. Louis, you definitely, and they knew that I wasn't from there because of the way I talked. They're like, oh, well, you're not from here. I'm like, why you say that? Oh, you talk proper. I'm like, okay, well, I don't understand what talking proper is. I've just been talking my whole life, Went to school just like everybody else does. Hopefully everybody else can talk proper. But, with that saying, you definitely have to adapt to your surroundings and, watch your six. You know what I'm saying? Definitely, how I communicate here in Phoenix is not how I would have communicated in St. Louis, because it's just a different demographic of people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Those people, you might say something, and those people in St. Louis, they might take it a different way.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And it's the same exact verbiage, but they just never heard it that way. You know what I'm saying? It's like they have their own world, their whole dialogue, So, but yeah, definitely, you just have to figure it out wherever you
Absolutely.
are,
Absolutely.
and communicate.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and I think Larry, I just saw Larry's comment. I believe, I think he agrees with us that communication is the key to, regardless of what type of relationship you're in, whether it be, again, romantic, friendship, kinship, family. I mean,
Homies,
it doesn't matter. It's the staple that moves across all of them.
Absolutely. The fact that he mentioned kinship, and I'm thinking, well, let's talk about relatives, because again, we talked about marriage or
yeah.
being involved, relationship, that relationship. We talked about neighbors. We talked about coworkers. Let's talk about family. And I'm sure we could all talk about this for a while. Isn't it interesting, Chuck? You said, and I never thought of it this way. Maybe because we just live it, but it seems like it's almost like the movie however many faces of Eve, whatever that many faces of Eve, whatever that movie is. We speak differently depending upon the audience, right?
Yeah.
We communicate obviously different depending upon the audience. So if we're talking about marriage, or we're talking about coworkers, neighbors, now we're talking about family, we speak to our family differently than we speak to any of these other groups that we just talked about. And the question is, why is that? Why do we speak differently to our family, whether it's our immediate or our extended family, than we do to our own spouse or our own, neighbors or why is that? I mean, I feel like it's a slippery slope, but why do you think that is? And Chuck, I'm gonna start with you.
And Mia, code switching. I like that. I like that term. I believe, once again, I try to find the root in all of this. That's just what I'm trained to do. But just from a common sense standpoint, it's going to be different even between which family members you're talking about. And what it goes back to is our original point in my conversation when you and I first started talking about this is consistency. And that's how also we can be different with spouses or even friends. How long have you known that person? So longevity does play a part. In terms of the length of time you've known somebody, that you can actually have a deeper conversation, or you can say something and they won't interpret it the wrong way because you've been consistent over the years. Same thing with family members. There are certain family members I can say one thing to, just like Anthony gave a good example about geography. He can't say something, he can say the same thing in Phoenix as he does in St. Louis, and it'll be taken differently. Anthony, I lived in New York City for 10 years, so trust me, I know exactly what you're talking about before I moved down here. So it's also long. So I don't really know you, then yes, I have to take that into consideration in terms of what I say. But if I've known you for a while, even with family, then I'm actually more freer because at least I've built up that emotional deposit, so to speak, that I've been consistent over a period of time. So therefore I can say certain things to you because of that relationship that I might not be able to say to cousin JoJo, who I just found out we was cousins, 2 weeks ago.
Right.
But before you impart, Pratt, why you got to call JoJo when you know that's your godson's name?
Top of my
He knows,
mind, top of
look, he
mind.
knows I call my older son JoJo. Anyway, Pratt, what are your thoughts, brother?
Yeah, the communication between your loved ones versus outside the house or whatever. Of course, it's going to be different. That's somebody that you see almost on a daily basis. So of course that communication is going to be different versus somebody that you see 8 hours a day clocking in, or just somebody out there on the street, most definitely. But I think it just all goes back with adaptation. Your surroundings, where you are, your faculties of understanding the moment, and communicating. That's it. That's just you just gotta know where you are, who you dealing with, who you talking to, and like you said, I've heard the word grace. Just give everybody grace. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Sometimes, at work, when I first got there, there were a couple of guys, that talked in a certain manner, like, and and a lot of times, you sit back and you think to yourself, where is this cat coming from?
Mm-hmm.
But then the intellectual you, or I'm sure everybody's got some type of intellect, but with me it was like, hold on, let me go on and give this guy grace. Let him say what he needs to say, how he says it, because maybe this is the way he's only known how to do it. You know what I'm saying? So then I come back with my softer approach, not match his vernacular, and I start talking to him. So then after we get done, a couple of days later, a couple of weeks later, he comes at me differently. Because he
Maybe it was
knows.
a test. Maybe it was a test.
And exactly, most
Yeah.
definitely. So that awareness of where you are, having the thought, the ability to think out that box about, okay, I've been in a certain situation before. Let me dumb this down or whatever. I know he's not coming at me with harm. So, but yeah, I just noticed that with certain people, they come back at you differently because, and I've often been told this, you're different. And I'm like, what do you mean? Well, when I started talking to you, you actually took the time to talk with me and, set aside that time, and I'm like, of course, you know what I'm saying? We all have to give each other grace.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have a wonderful dialogue that's going on in the comment section right now. Chuck, you want to kind of pull a couple of things out, and let's make sure we bring some things forward. I see our brother Lomicio has jumped in. He's saying freedom of expression. I talked to Mia, say a couple of things. Chuck, there's a couple of things you want to pull out. Chuck, you want me to do it?
No, I mean, they're all good. And the one thing, Denise said, and again, I always appreciate vulnerability because I really believe that vulnerability is actually power. And she writes, I'm guarded. So again, that's self-knowledge, it's knowledge of self to know who you are in that particular situation and how that might affect things.
Mm-hmm.
It's the ignorant people who don't understand who they are. That's what's dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, there's also a perception that people should just deal with you for who you are and you love it, leave it like it or not. Everyone is not going to do that. And in your case, Anthony, it's good to hear that you have enough wisdom and discernment. I mean, you should at 73, but you have enough wisdom and discernment to.
Well, I think that's, the places I've been have given me that, that has afforded me that intellectual knowing that, hey, okay, I'm going to listen. I'm going to give you the grace, get what you need to say, and then I'm going to interject. You know what I'm saying? And of course, we just all have to be like
Absolutely.
that, Yeah.
I think the overarching thing is that here we are at this Larry Hush. I teach Pat all the time. He knows he's like 79. Uh, but at the end of the day, you have enough wisdom and understanding to know everybody's different. And
Most
sometimes,
definitely.
again, when we talk about grace, people could be having a really bad day. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's who they are or da da da. Maybe they're going through something. You just never know. So your purpose might be, as Charlie and I talked about early on, to just listen, to be that listening ear. Yes, they're going on and they're grumpy and they're this or they're that, whatever that spirit is that's on them. But I'm gonna pray through that. I'm gonna pray for that person. I'm just gonna extend them grace. I'm gonna take the higher road, basically, because a lot of
Right.
time taking the higher road is like it's less energy that I have to exert because I don't want to meet that same energy that you were talking about, Brad. I don't want to have to muster up that kind of energy and be grumpy back and forth with you. I'm having a great day and I don't have time for that. So, brother, I hear you, da 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 da, but I'm gonna give you this grace, let you get
Right.
that one off, and then we'll come back after that. So yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
I mean, and again, kind of going back to what Pratt was saying was very, very profound. So I don't want to skim over it. Who you are and how you respond to things is also based upon your experiences. And so when you start talking about intellect, then you based upon the variety of experiences you've had, so the greater number of experiences you have, actually the greater your intellectual resources are. So if
Absolutely.
you've only been on one block, then like some of the folks that I dealt with in New York, they only understood Harlem. Or if I went to Brooklyn, they only understood Brooklyn.
Right.
So they don't have a huge pool to pull from. And that was one of the great things that I can say, going back to us having our conversation about Mayberry. That's one of the things that actually afforded us the opportunity, is that wide range,
Right.
range. And so,
Right.
Pratt, I didn't want to, skim over it, because you touched on that. Again, by being in the military. Now, there's pros and cons to that too. But by being in the military, because my wife, she's a military brat. So she's been all over. And we actually have those conversations that's why it's different, because everywhere she went, I think she had she went to like 4 different junior high schools, etc. I didn't have that experience. So everywhere she went, she had to adapt immediately, where I was allowed to be the same person. So
Yes.
it's about that range. Those life experiences actually add to your range.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Brad. Go ahead, brother.
Most definitely. I grew up 5 years in Saudi Arabia before I knew you guys. So trying to communicate with people that don't even speak your language. You know, a totally different culture. That don't do things like the way that we do here in America. You know what I'm saying? At the time, they didn't even have any roads. So try to communicate your way through that. You know what I'm saying? The culture is just totally different. Things that we take for granted. You know, totally different out there. I was born in the Philippines, so third world country out there. So communication, is different everywhere you go. Like I said, I got to get a handle of that IE handbook, because I didn't know we had one. But
By the way, folks, we're working on the IE handbook after this
yeah,
call.
yeah,
It'll be coming to a store near you soon.
for $19.95, I'm selling these. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, but this inflation, we'll give it 10% discount.
Yeah. So yeah, just like Chuck said, intellectually, your surroundings, where you've been, things that you've dealt with in the past, and who you're dealing with now. It just all goes back to think about where you are. Think
Absolutely.
about who's in front of you.
Absolutely.
Think about the moment. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And give that person that grace.
Mm-hmm.
Are we perfect? No.
Yeah.
Do we fail? Of course. You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? But he's a forgiver, right?
Come on.
He's a forgiver. So, as long as you keep that in the forefront, you got to give those people that grace. Everyone's different.
Absolutely. 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 It's very important to understand who you're dealing with, not just knowledge of self, like we've been talking about, or self-actualize, like I said earlier. But it's very important to understand the person that you're talking to, interacting with, even if it's surface level understanding. Because a lot of what, like the three of us here, we've known each other for years, granted. But if I was just getting to know the two of you, the one thing I could say is I'm looking at you. Again, it's a verb or it's a visual thing. I'm looking at you and I can tell your body language or this or that. So I'm observing enough to know, okay, I could maybe start in a conversation this way or that way. But again, you know,
Right.
I'm trying to use some level of discernment. I'm trying to use some level of wisdom. Trying. I mean, I'm always good at it. But with that being
Right.
said, you have to understand who you're dealing with. Um, and so I wanted to take a moment, if I could. We've talked about marriage, we talked about neighbors, and da 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 da. Can we specifically talk about how we communicated with our parents? Because how we communicated with our parents was different. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge both of your parents. Chuck, I knew yours, but I never had the privilege of knowing yours. I think the two of you probably had met my father, but all of our parents are deceased. Shout out to my mother who is still with us, and mom, you know, I love you. See you in another couple of weeks. But how to, even me talking to my mom to this day, it's different. So if I could, how important is the conversations and how you communicated with your parents? Because the relationship is different, obviously. But Chuck, I see you grinning. How important was that? And actually, because I almost know what Chuck's going to say. Pratt, I'm going to start with you. How important was how you communicated with your parents?
Well, I'm an only child, so in terms of communicating with my parents, I was too busy ducking and dodging either the chancla or the belt because my mom was Bruce Lee with that shit. So, uh,
Language,
oh,
language,
I'm sorry.
correct.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Yeah, my mom was Bruce Lee with that. So, my dad, serviceman, always gone, always, doing his thing. When he'd come home, he was never and that's funny that you bring that up about parents. My dad has never ever really had a conversation with me.
Mm.
And that might not necessarily be a bad thing, or some might look at it as a bad thing, but that's just the way he was.
Now let me ask this. When you say communication, because remember there's different forms. Do you mean he
Oh, okay.
didn't verbally communicate with you? Was it written
Yeah,
communication? Was there,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know what I mean?
So, my dad wasn't of the speaking type.
Gotcha.
You know, he'd just come home, assess the house, get his dinner plate, and go to his area. Every now and then, we might have a conversation, take the trash can out. Hey, cut the grass. And that was about the extent of it. I can remember a couple of times, when things came up, of course, he interjected, but for the most part, my dad was never really, like I said, he was gone.
Mm-hmm.
He was gone doing
Mm-hmm.
his thing. It was
Mm-hmm.
mom was the head of the house and she did her thing. And like I said, I was always trying to avoid her because I was that child in school.
Well, we do know
So
you.
I didn't want to get the communication of getting that the mail drop, of what was in the mail from Frisbee and Eisenhower. And we all, well, I know some of y'all were probably perfect in attendance, but hey, I always got that mail drop. I'm sorry. So I was trying to rush home to get that communication from them. So that's just
God,
that's just the life of me.
God bless every 6 weeks when the progress reports come out. Anyway.
Exactly.
Anyway, well, I have intercepted mail. I'm sure that's a felony somewhere, but anyway.
Well, I can tell you this: if we grew up in this time, oh my God, bro, with
Thank
with
goodness we
social
did.
media, texting, my children's schools, I have to turn them notifications off because they text me too much, bro. I don't need to know my children like that.
It's a whole
But
different show.
Exactly. But
Because we can talk
anyways,
about communication with kids, but I'm gonna leave that for a later time. How about
there
that,
you go.
brother Chuck? What you got?
I mean, it was very simple for me. My parents were polar opposite in
Yes, they
terms
were.
of personality.
Yes.
So that's why, again, I could be very sensitive to what Anthony was talking about, having lived in different places and having to adapt to different situations. So growing up, I kind of thought that it was a bad thing. But now that as an adult, that's probably one of the greatest blessings because my mom was the biggest fighter that you ever want to meet. You know, when people got
Mm.
into, I'm going to get my dad. No, no, no. I'm going to get my mom.
Yeah, Miss
Exactly.
And
Ruth
when
wasn't
she's coming,
nice. She wasn't
she's
nice.
not she'll pray for you and shoot you at the same time. I could talk about it now, she's gone, but yeah, she was a spiritual woman, but yeah, she was no joke. My dad, on the other hand, was the great negotiator.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on the situation, I can go either way. I can fight or I can negotiate. And so that was one of the greatest, I guess now, one of the greatest things that I actually came out of that. But to answer your question, both of them, what they had in common was love. They loved other people and they would do anything for other people. So those are the two things, depending on even though their styles might have been different, the commonality was love and how they express love for other people. Agape love, godly love for other people. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's what, I was able to pull from both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's again, that just extended my range. It did. But again, one of the things that it kind of brought it all together was love in terms of how they loved and how they genuinely cared for other people. I mean, I still get, I think I was like 35 when one of my friends pretty much said, I played such and such because your dad actually paid for me to play. I didn't know that. He didn't come home and say, son, this is what I done.
Right.
He just did it. So the other thing that I had to advantage is, again, when you're growing up the way we grew up, we had a huge extended family. We didn't really call it extended family at the time, but my influence was everybody. So whether it be the Lamars, Mr. King, Mr. and Mrs. King, Mr. and Mrs. Creighton. So you had Mr. and Mrs. Moore. So you had people whose parents were different than mine. And so I was able to look at how does Mr. Creighton adapt to a certain situation? How can I take that personality? So again, it can be, in many cases, people might think it might be schizophrenic, but each person had their own strength. And so I was able to pull from each person's strength.
Right.
And then depending on the situation, apply each person's strength.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. There
Yeah.
you go. Adapt.
Well, yeah, and so, or the word that's been kind of floating around in my brain is assimilate. So whatever the situation is, whatever the surround, and that's not a bad thing. Again, you have to use a level of wisdom to understand, okay, what's going on in this room? Let me read the room. Let me see what's going on. And then let me see what it is, how I can impart what I need to impart. What is it that I need to do? Again, I don't have to be the loudest person in the room to be able to be effective in what I'm trying to say. Again, sometimes you just need to be still and just listen. You know, Brother Disney said effective communication. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm seeing some wonderful names on here that we haven't seen in forever. Our brother Mouse Amicio, again, my brother Disney, Mia, I see that you chimed in, Larry Duncan, LD, our brother Keith Lane. Hey now. Let's see, Pratham, Sandy Powell, is that one of our loved
Oh, you
ones
did.
from
That. Those are my people.
yeah, I think that's
Prophet Powell.
pretty good, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Great man and great woman of God. Yes.
Sister Bonnie Bowles. So I just want to make sure we take a moment to acknowledge all of you. I seen our sister Mishucker. Mishucker, I see you, sister. I think you on the other side of Phoenix right now, so you could probably go knock on Pratt's door right now. But again, thanks each and every one of you for joining us for our check-in. Again, this is our Facebook Live chat that we have every single month, the first Saturday of the month. So again, we've been talking about communication. We normally run for about an hour, and I know that we're a little bit over time right now, but this conversation has been very, very important. Now, I'm gonna stop for a second because I'm gonna blow them out the water again. We wouldn't have started late, but see, it's Pratt came 14 minutes late. So, we had to wait for him.
Communication.
And I could do communicating with them. That's what makes it worse. I see our sister Violet Saavedra. We love you, sis. What you saying over here, Mouse? Always be on your time, T. Absolutely. Look, Pratt's always late, huh? But anyway, that's all right. We still love him anyway. Let's have some final thought. Again, I don't mind us going a slightly over because it's obvious that this topic is very important. We've got people that are tuning in specifically to talk about the importance of communication, and I love the conversations that are being had in the chat. So please continue to have those with us. But I asked a question about the parents, and I'll say this, and then I guess we can close it up with final thought. I know how it was like communicating with my parents, and it wasn't very good. Obviously, as a child, you're listening to what your parents tell you.
Right.
There's not a lot you can get off on your parents because they really don't care what your perspective is. But there was a lot of wisdom, pearls of wisdom that was being hurled at me, but I was too simple and silly to be able to understand what it was. It took me 20 years to understand what my parents were trying to say to me. But the beautiful thing was I actually heard it and I put it back in the back of my brain like, okay, because I've been able to utilize it. But a lot of things that I've just kind of pulled here or there. A lot of things that Russell told me, my father told me that I was like, oh, I remember my dad used to say. I say that a lot. But again, relationship and how I chatted with my parents or communicated with my parents, they loved me to death, but at the same time, they knew what was best. Their wisdom, their experiences were what was best for me. I didn't know enough about life, had way too many opinions about things to understand what I was going through. So it was important for me as a child to listen and a little less talking and listen. So that kind of, I'm not saying that I didn't say what I needed to say, but I couldn't get off what I wanted to say. And for anybody that's in this chat besides Chuck that knew who my father was, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'll leave it at that. So there you go. But that being said, let's have some final thoughts then. Again, thanking everybody that's joined us today. That's at whatever the time frame is that you've come in and you've literally jumped into the chat with us. You've come in and just listened in, but anything that you've been part of with us, we want to take a moment to thank you for that. And as I mentioned, please continue having conversations with us because we'll continue to have this dialogue long after the podcast closes. But let's do some final thoughts. And Pratt, I'd like to at least start with you. What are your final thoughts about the things that we talked about? Again, the importance of communication. What's kind of your takeaway from this chat today?
Well, definitely a great topic. My take on it is just, it's definitely a key. Knowing when to and how to give grace. So, with that said, I'm not much of a talker, but just understand where you are, what you're doing. Like I said, we're all not perfect, and we're all supposed to be forgiving. So, we all fail in the term of communication, but we have to recognize that, move forward, rectify whatever it is that our shortcomings are about communication.
Absolutely.
And just try to do better
Absolutely.
the next time. You know what I'm saying? Like 25 years with my wife. Has it been perfect? No, not at all. You know what I'm saying? But that's life. You know what I'm saying? There is no handbook to this.
Yes.
There's no rule book to this. You know what I'm saying? So we all have to ad lib and interject, figure it out for the geographical area that we're in. Who we dealing with, whether it's a coworker, a friend, a loved one, a cousin, whoever. You know what I'm saying? But by and all, just grace, guys, grace, and communicate. We're not getting any younger. We're moving forward. Life is progressing, and we all have moved to different states. Sometimes we don't pick up that phone. You know what I'm saying? So understand that, we have to communicate, guys.
Absolutely.
Communication,
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
With that said, that's it, guys. That's all I have.
All right. Chuck, what you think?
I'm trying to exercise and not respond I want to hear first and then respond. So thank you very much for that, Brother Pratt. Love you, man.
Love you too, brother.
My final take on it is, Tanya, again, I got to give you a lot of credit. I believe you gave flowers. Wonderful topic, because the way you formatted it started wide, and then narrow it down. We're also able to draw comparisons between, again, communication styles, relationship, the different types of relationships. So it was wonderful. But at the end of the day, it kind of touches me because, and I appreciate everybody for sharing. I love stories. People are who they are, and everybody has a story. There's a reason why. And so for people to be able to share their story and the reason why allows me the better opportunity to understand who they are. And
Absolutely.
if I need to make adjustments to show my love to them, I'm willing to make the adjustment, because now I understand who they are. So that's my biggest takeaway, and I appreciate everybody for chiming in. Cheryl Lindbergh, I saw she popped on. Hey, Cheryl. So I appreciate everybody for chiming in. So that's my takeaway.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, with that, again, communication for me is king. It is of the
King.
utmost importance. Um, and I realized that a very long time ago, communication is, and I said this early on, communication keeps confusion at bay. If I
Right.
verbally communicate with you, again, I've told you what it is I'm looking for, what my expectation is, and then I stop, as Chuck talked about, and then I listen for your response, and we have a dialogue. Again, it's reciprocal, and we go back and forth. I can't ask for anything more than that. I can't ask for anything.
Right.
And as I said, Pratt, right before you jumped on to Chuck, that if I were to pass before Charlie does, and I know he's going to come to my funeral, of course I'm going to come back and taunt him, but and he's going to speak, but the one thing that I would hope that he would be able to say is, Tanya told people how she felt and where they were at in the life with her. There's no confusion about who it
Yes.
is you are to me. So I can sit and say that all the people that have joined us, again, because we've known all these people, I love all y'all. Y'all my family, period. Love you to death. You know that. There's never a question mark when it comes to me. You know exactly where you stand. And to me, that's very important. Communication is king. Because if I didn't tell you and you sitting around wondering like, well, did she or did she? No, you know exactly where you stand with me, because I'm going to make sure to tell you. I don't want it to be a question mark. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Again, there's a way to go about talking to people, and we've talked about that today. We talked about the who we talk to and the how we talk to. We covered all of that today. So I think this has been a very well-rounded conversation. Chuck, I see our brother, Big Bob, Buff Bob, Bobby Buchanan has joined us. You know, I love you. So, we got to get you up here too, brother. Sister Violet, Sister Vonnie, again, for everyone that's joined us, anybody that's going to come in and watch this live after the fact, this is the check-in, and this is our check-in for October. We appreciate everyone that's jumped on. Hi, Sister Cheryl. I see you, sis, and hopefully you'll be able to join us as well. I will be reaching out to some of y'all, so look, be on the lookout for the messages asking y'all to join us. But this has been the check-in for October. Again, Brother Pratt, we love you, brother. Chuck,
DeBarge.
as always, Chuck. You better stop calling that man DeBarge. As always, I love
Well,
you, brother. Hey,
hey,
Pratt, turn your
he and
camera back
Gerald.
around, Pratt.
Well,
We're not off yet, Pratt. Turn your camera
I
back
don't know.
around. Quit
I don't know what
on your
happened
business,
again, man.
Pratt. Stop showing us your
I
business,
don't know what.
Pratt.
I
Anyway,
don't
this
know.
is the check-in, y'all.
hey,
Thank
Tanya.
you, Anthony.
Hey, Tanya.
Yeah.
As El would say, Pratt and JC Swoop are the two light-skinned brothers in the group.
Oh, Lord. Anyway, it's been the check-in, y'all. We love y'all. We'll see you next time. Oh, y'all
All
are too
right,
much.
y'all. Bye.